All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast and continuing on with the Behind the Broker series. Today, we had the pleasure of sitting down with Bill Fraser. He made the trip in from Nanaimo, which is his market and his hometown. And honestly, this was a great chat. This is like, it just was such a seamless, easy conversation. We got the direct goods from Bill, and I think you're really going to enjoy this. So we'll pass it on to the team. Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by A Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with A Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. We're back today with Bill Fraser, one of the top agents at A Better Way Mortgage Group and actually located in Nanaimo. One of our only agents actually located in Nanaimo. We don't actually have many brokers on the island. So I think that will actually be kind of an interesting piece too, is just what that market looks like. But most importantly, we want to jump into, how are things going in your career now today? And of course, the market that we just came out of has not been a great one. We're definitely going to, touch on your who you are and your background and what led you to the career of being a mortgage broker and ultimately what keeps you doing this, because it's, we all know it's not the easiest, most fun job at times. Derek's obviously with us as well. We're missing Jason today, but yeah, this is gonna be a really good one. We have, we have a really direct relationship, which I appreciate. You tell us the goods, you tell us the bads, we get it all right away. And I think we all appreciate that. And I think that's probably kind of going to be like, a lot of what this episode is going to be about is just the real good stuff and the bad stuff too. So
no holding back. Okay.
Yeah.
You asked for it.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show, man. Let's jump in. So yeah, how are things
me.
going and where are things at right now?
Yeah, it's going for sure. I think business is definitely picking up over the last short while. Last couple of years have been not so easy, obviously. I think everyone's in the market's been a little bit challenged. So depending what you chose to do with that time, I think is something to talk about. So for myself, during those slow times, taking advantage of certain training groups, cohorts, mastermind groups, just sharing ideas with other brokers in the industry, industry leaders and lenders. So I found myself spending more time investing in myself, I guess, during the slower times. So I think that's going to hopefully reign through when things pick up here and hopefully revamp a few things. So
that's really cool. And I hope that more people kind of followed that trend, right? Because I know if I picture myself brokering, every time things would get slow, it's this like crazy stress and you think it's you and you go into panic mode and then it gets busy again and then you're stressed because it's busy and it's just this roller coaster of stress that you can't get out of.
That's right.
So to hear that is awesome because I talk to brokers all the time now and I'm like, look, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can control as long as you're doing what you need to do in your business. But if it's slow one day, enjoy it. Right?
Yeah.
Like you got to find time or maybe not even enjoy it, but find something to do that's useful.
Yeah.
Right. Such as all the, tactical stuff that you were just talking about.
That's kind of something I found learning earlier in my career was the ups and downs. You've got to not forecast them, but work with them. So, when it's slower, enjoy yourself, take that vacation, use those fundamentals or tweak those fundamentals that you don't have time to do when things are smoking busy again. So,
but it's also a good reminder too of like in the downtimes, like there is going to be the good times again. We've all seen that in our careers, the ups and downs, and like doing what you just did, it's like it's preparing you for the opportunity that knocks that's ultimately coming, right? And I think there's a balance in just going on vacation mode and staying on vacation mode, right? Like, so
definitely.
I mean, how do you balance that? Like, what motivates you to go and take those cohorts? Like, I know we've talked about that offline here. It's just like the Jim Terlicka stuff and like the things that you keep investing in. Like, what motivates you to do that?
Touching on the point that you started out with is the fact that you panic when times are slow. So what do? You just kind of stir yourself in, you're spinning your wheels. So knowing that the business is going to come back around was probably I had to see a couple cycles of that, honestly, before I knew, okay, yeah, this bus is coming back around. So I can take those times to invest in myself, or maybe take a holiday once in a while. So honestly, it was only time that brought me to that, because it's scary when you don't know your paychecks coming in, right? So that's one of the hard challenges of our industry is, you start with negative balance each month and work your way out of a hole. So,
but we love it.
We love it.
I got a question for you. And I know you'll be transparent on this, which is why I want to ask you. There's been a lot of conversation in our industry over the last couple of years. There's been a lot of challenges, and a lot of people have taken that in different ways. I know there's been a lot of mental health challenges in our industry. Like, 2020, 2021, 2022 were really good years for most brokers. Like, volumes were high, and going into 2023, 2024, volumes were just down, right? And there was only so much you could do to control that and to fight it. And I know a lot of people, like, we've done quite a few sessions just on mental health and awareness of, what's going on, and trying to help people get through, challenging times like that. How did you take that impact personally? Like, how did you feel from that? Because, most people's volumes dropped. I don't know what yours, maybe they're the same, but most people cut down by 35 to 50%, right? Which is significant in so many different, aspects.
Yeah, mine was 50%. So I did literally 50% of the applications I was doing in those years, equaling 50% of the funded volume, almost to a T, actually. That's a tough one, because there was all sorts of challenges with mental health at that time, right? We're seeing a lot of secludedness, dealing with, 2 kids at home that aren't in school, et cetera, those types of challenges. I think what worked the best for me is I actually, with a team, I took those challenges and I said, okay, so tonight we're not doing any work. I want to come in tomorrow morning with a picture of you out somewhere that you find peace. So we had, a time to share the next day of where you went and the picture you took. So I think it was the focus, as opposed to just go, go, go. I had to rein it back a bit and just, on a more personal level, help people kind of get through those times.
That's cool.
Yeah, for myself, I think it was just investing in to other people. Probably, I just kind of managed the time with that, and kind of flew by with those tasks that I had. So, yeah, I think staying busy, not just with the business, but also managing people at that time was probably my biggest.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Maybe just jumping into like the team side of things, because you bring up the team and running a team, and now, like, looking out for a paycheck for yourself. Now you're looking out for a paycheck for those families too.
Yeah.
Like, how, maybe chat about that for a little bit, and like, what is, ultimately, like, the challenge side of it, but like what motivates you to keep that going and growing the team?
Yeah, so throughout my career, I've tried different people in different places, different systems instead of people. So I feel like I've come to a pretty good conclusion as to what the right mix is, and having strong, solid people is an absolute must. Like, to bring someone up from zero knowledge while you're still trying to maintain the business, while you're doing kids, all the other stuff, is it's impossible. I'm going to say it, because I tried to do it. So one of the best piece of advice before my brother had passed away was, and it's not new to anyone, is you get what you pay for. And it's with people as well. And you've got to be able to show people that you care about their life. They have a family to take care of, all that stuff. So really focusing on the people that you are bringing into your team is huge, because you could have a team of 50 people and do the productivity of 2. So it really, I discovered that, like, having more people was a goal, but managing that many more lifestyles and people was not what I was looking for. I'm not a manager. So I've gone from 5 people on the team to currently just myself and Tarina in underwriting, and we've got marketing taken care of and such. So it's a very particular person that you want to find in particular roles is what I would suggest.
What helps you find that right person? Like, what is it, a lengthy interview process? Is there any like tools or tricks that you have to actually, make sure you're getting the right personality and the right person to fit with you?
Yeah, so looking at what's that?
Disc.
Disc.
Yeah.
The disc profile. So taking a blurb from Dustin Woodhouse, a disc profile is absolute a must. And what to know about a disc profile is you're not looking for someone that you can get along with and do this with. You're actually looking for the opposite.
Correct.
So not have an argument with the person, but not seeing eye to eye on everything is actually what you're looking for like an underwriter particular role, right? So I've never once brought another broker in to the team. I have always been the lead broker, and I never will. Like, that's something I'm not interested in doing. So finding people in the right spots to do the right things it's taken some time, but I feel like I've gotten there now.
This is a great conversation. I mean, I personally know tons of brokers that are in a position where their volume's high enough, the cash flow is strong enough that they should be hiring, and they just can't. Like, they just can't get to that point because most brokers are A-type people. We're control freaks. It's hard to give it up. And like, the best piece of advice I could give anyone that's in that situation is just do it. Like, you just have to get it. You have to get your foot in the door. You have to start working with someone. If it's not perfect, you can always look for other people. Yeah. But you just got to give it your all, and you got to understand that it's never going to be as good as like, the task will never be done typically as good as it would if you did it, and you have to be okay with that because it's always going to be good enough for your client. Right. Like, it's just a good, like, I like hearing this because you've obviously been through the motions with a handful of different people and seen the pros and cons, but you've stayed consistent with it because you see the value in it. Right.
I think what I've broken it down to is two sides of the business too, actually. So there's our side, like the broker side, in front of the client side, in front of lender's side, and then there's the opposite side, which is, hammering away on your laptop all day and doing all of the fine tuning of numbers and stuff. I can do both, but I'll tell you, I'm much better on the client side and being in front of the client rather than sitting on my laptop. So if you can find that division early, I think that's a must. Like, there's two parts to this business where it's really hard to manage both.
Let's go back a few steps to, what led you to this career. And I find everyone's got a unique path for the most part. Why don't we start there? Like, how'd you get into this game?
Yeah, I could definitely say that my path was a little more unique, and you may have to edit parts of this out, but I'll leave that to you guys. But I was in finance. I worked for the big five banks. I worked for CIBC. I literally, I'll tell you actually further than that, I sold cell phones at Bell Mobility in a mall. And one day I seen a good friend of mine walk by in a suit. And I was like, Big Jesse, I called him, and it's like, Jesse, why are you wearing a suit? He's like, well, I work at CIBC. And I was like, well, I want to work at CIBC too. I was like, get me an interview. He's like, okay. And sure enough, he got me an interview, and I talked my way into a personal banker role where basically I went from selling cell phones on a Wednesday night to giving you guys banking advice on Thursday morning. Wow. No kidding.
Great advice, I'm sure.
Yeah. I had a tie on. It was great advice. I had a desk. I literally was thrown out to the public overnight with zero experience.
Wild.
Yeah. So when you go and talk to your bank next time, ask him how long he's been sitting there with his little tie on. So, but it was fantastic because that was the change in my life at that point. Actually, rather than working a retail type job, it was okay. I'm super important now. I've got a desk job. People listen to me when I'm talking. And then discovered very quickly that the bank is not where I wanted to be to do all this, but still figuring things out in life and all that stuff. I did my term, so I think 2.5 years, 3 years spent at CIBC, and then moved on to TD Auto Group, which that's a whole other breed of lending in there, working with dealerships and such. And again, not my favorite type of lending, so I moved on from there actually and got into Wells Fargo when they were in Canada. So I honestly would say that was probably one of my best work experiences, just with the lending type. They had subprime, they had mortgages, loans, ways to work numbers out. So it was the best gritty training that I could have gotten for this role. So I got comfy in that, and then the branch manager up and left into a mortgage broker position, ironically, and here I was 9 months in the job, and the regional manager, which is part of our brokerage now, actually Hans, he came to me and said, well, why don't you manage the store? And I was like, well, okay. It's like, why not? You know,
Good
I guess I'm
promotion.
ready for it. Big promotion. Yeah. And the big promotion of responsibilities, not pay. But
Yeah.
so I did that and I rocked it. Like I did great. And it was like, I don't know if it was just the timing or what, but I thought I was doing a fantastic job. And then Wells Fargo pulled out of Canada. Not my fault. But yeah, it was an eye opener because I'd spent so much time working so hard for this big company that we were set. Like I was actually going and interviewing the city financial manager at the time to bring him over, and all this stuff I thought was really cool and being a part of this big company. And then they had a Canada-wide conference call one day and said, we're all laid off. Everyone's done. Yeah.
What was that, the 2008 crisis? Is that when that happened?
Just after, just after that. So they were making billions of dollars in Canada, but pulled out just due to image, I guess, was the bottom line. So I got the task of winding the branch down after that and kind of getting all the files organized, et cetera. They spent more money doing that than just operating. Like it was a weird decision, but. And then, yeah, that was the introduction to a buddy of mine who was a broker at the time, came knocking on the door as I was packing up these files. And he's like, hey, you know, he knew what was going on. He's like, you got some higher interest mortgages. You got a client that you absolutely love. Let me see his file. So I was like, okay, well, I remember the name and everything, gave him the file. And he's like, can I contact him? I was like, what do we got to lose? So I think it was a week and a half later, this guy shows up back at the door with an envelope for me. He's like, here you go. I opened it up with a bunch of cash in it. I was like, what do you do? He's like, well, I just took our friend here and I dropped his interest rate in half, his payments in half from what he was paying. And he's like, I got paid this amount, so here's your share. And I was like, okay, let's talk. Like, this is, you just saved this guy loads of money.
That's so cool.
And you got paid to do that? How much did it cost him? Nothing. I was like, what? Like I'd been in finance for almost 7-10 years and I had no idea what a mortgage broker was. No clue what a mortgage broker was.
What a smart broker to come knocking on that door.
100%.
Like, hey,
100%. Yeah. That's where tons of these high interest files were, right? So yeah, I went and talked with his boss and then eventually figured out what this role was. And I was like, Jesus, this is where I want to be for sure. So talked with like all the different agencies, brokerages, and found myself with a small Dominion lending brokerage. So it was great. It was great. It was a super interesting introduction to the industry that I had no idea even existed.
Very cool. That's a cool story. That's an interesting path, to say the least. I don't know if we'll have another person on here that worked at Wells Fargo, but
it was good. Yeah. And just to have that knowledge of what the banks trust and present everyday people with. Like I literally knew nothing about anything. And they're like, yeah, get up there and sell bank accounts and visas and you sell as many bank accounts as you can. So every single person I talked to had 3 bank accounts, a USA account, a Visa. It's like, okay, now what? They're like, well, if they want anything more, you send them to the back. And I was like, okay, what's in the back? And that's where the mortgages were and stuff. So I was that guy up front scooping all the business.
I really like that kind of motivating piece of, you know, when you realize it was for free, there was no cost to the client, you were getting paid and you're saving this guy money. Like once someone gets the feel for what a broker can do for a consumer, it's pretty unbelievable, right? Like I think that's why, as much as we all know this business can be absolutely grueling at times and you're ripping your hair out, there's so much positive in what we do in most situations, right? That's really what I think keeps most people going outside of the financial benefit.
Yeah, I agree. So I did have a good start in brokering because I had that experience. I think that's vital to come into this with some sort of background is key. Starting out in the industry, you can make it work, but I think it was a huge leg up. I closed a mortgage my first day of being a licensed broker.
Wow.
So I was working with a licensed broker while I was studying and challenging the test. So my first day, he had a deal. I know, I was like, it's legendary, but it's under his name, so whatever. But I thought that was cool. And honestly, I closed 5 mortgages that first license month.
Wow.
And
Wow.
everyone, agency's like, who is this guy? And I'm just like, yes, it's easy,
Tie
easy.
on
I'm going
it.
to Mexico. I don't even have to wear a tie. I'm going to Mexico. My phone's going to be littered with messages when I get back, and things are going to be great. And came back, and not a single message, not even a phone call. I was
Wow.
like, oh, this isn't so easy. You actually have to, because I'd spent months working up to those 5 deals, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this isn't so easy, actually. So that was a real eye opener in the very beginning, where that was actually the start of the downward. Like 2011 to 13 was not easy times. That's right when I jumped in. So
I can imagine. Maybe like just going deeper there. Like, I mean, it's clear why you became a mortgage broker, and obviously you've had some success right out the gates in that story. But then, the ups and downs. What's motivated you to stay with it? Because it's tough at times, right?
yeah, so the story is not so. It's not so fun after that part. Going to Mexico, getting back, realizing that this is a grind, and
Yeah.
so I will say that business was really tough. I found myself actually wanting to give up at a few points, almost having to give up just because there was no money coming in. Financial stress started becoming a thing, and then relationship breakdown, and two brand new kids. It was the hardest time of my life, actually, and to pull through that again was not easy. Like, we had a lot of change happen,
Yeah.
separation and whatnot. But then it really became clear to me what I was doing all this for. That was my 2 young kids, and that was a huge moment in my life when everything was really not great, and I was sitting on this old beat up leather couch in this old beat up house and about to give up. Honestly, at a moment I was like, I can either go do this, or I can go and figure my shit out, and I chose to take the figuring things out way. And yeah, it was a challenging time. I think that was the most challenging time in my entire life, actually. And yeah, we made it through, and the kids are doing great and doing good now. And there's been challenges since then, of course, with turnover and such. But I think that was a really important part of my life, because you got to know what you're doing this for. It's got to be a
Your why.
purpose. Your
Yeah,
why.
I understand
Yeah,
your
Your
why.
why. So yeah.
I mean, we're glad to hear that you got through that for so many different reasons. It's also really cool to, knowing that you have those 2 young kids that have seen the path that you took there, right? And I'm sure that's going to help shape
Yeah.
them as they, get older.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, keeping your nose to the grindstone and working through those hard times is a must.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good example, just of dedication, consistency, discipline for those kids to obviously see. Is there one thing that you would say kind of spearheaded you getting out of that, and that stayed true to this day?
Getting up in the morning, straight up. You can lay in bed and think about things you're gonna do that day, or you get up and you start checking off the list.
Yeah.
Every single day, 7 days a week, and that's literally what I've had to do for the last 15 years.
It's a great point. It's so simple, right? Like, but
It's literally, it's
but
where
it
it
can be
starts. That's where
it
it
can be so
starts.
hard for so many people too, right?
Yeah, and it's easy to take those days off where you just
Yeah.
laze around and do nothing. But I don't take those days. I make sure I'm doing something. And if you get into those days, you find yourself very quickly not getting out of them, I think. So I've been through that, and not going down that path. So yeah, just that motivation to start the day.
So starting the day, what does a typical day look like for you now?
So I like to get I actually learned a really key task not to do in the mornings. I think it was Dustin actually again, was to not check your phone first thing when you wake up.
And it's hard.
Oh man. So it took me a while for sure,
I
but
haven't been able to do that yet.
yeah, you inherit everyone's problems right away. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
a chance to think about yourself and what you want to do, what you need to do.
Yeah.
You literally are taking it all on
a really good
before you
point.
get out of bed. So I was like, I like that. So I take the dog for his walk, kids lunches, etc. if I need to do that day, everything except for the work stuff. and then when work begins, it's like, okay, work. So half an hour before our team meeting, so I'm prepared, know what we're talking about, know what everyone's doing, and then basically team meeting, and then we've got our tasks from there for the day. So it's nothing crazy. I'm not a huge gym guy. I'm not 5 a.m. at the gym. There's no way. I'm still sleeping at 5 usually. So I do take late nights for my extra times, but I feel like a non-involved morning is key for sure.
That's a good ritual. I need to
Do
work on
nothing.
that.
Do nothing.
No, just the phone piece. It's like I definitely wear and bury myself into that right away, and it's a good reminder. How do you stay organized during the busy times? Like you just mentioned a pretty rigid routine there. Like how do you organize that?
Flexibility and people again. So, having a solid person on, I call it like the support side. So I don't have an assistant. I hate that word. So it's anyone that's supporting me. They have a clear view of what they're doing, and then the results of those are taking half of my day away, sort of thing. So really it's all about, again, the people that you've got involved with your process. And staying diligent to that. Whenever I jump into her stuff, I always mess it up, and she's great at what she does on her side. And that's the whole reason of me being the only broker, is no one can jump into my stuff and mess it up. Like, we've got pretty good regiment going. So I think that's the biggest thing with staying organized, because when you're managing 20 files at a time, it gets tough. It gets tough. You can't remember everything, right? So we've got a good system and we've got good people.
I think that I just heard there's a lot of trust in your relationship, right? And in your system. And I think that's one thing that we really learned too. And it's tough because you want to kind of micromanage and you want to make sure things are being done your way. But you got to let people just get in their groove and do their thing. And you got to trust them. And like you said, if they're capable, it's going to be done well, right? Yeah. And it's going to be way better for you to not have to think about that, right? You got to be able to separate that piece when you have any form of a partnership or working relationship, right? So I think trust is key in that.
Yeah, and even taking that a bit further, giving them the reins to, hey, can we do this better? You're doing this every day. I'm just the guy that set it all up. Is there a way to do this better now? Yeah. And sure enough, you give people that responsibility, they're going to run with it. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good segue into just relationships in general, client relationships. That's and I mean, that could play into your referral partners as well. Like, what is your approach to building and maintaining such strong relationships?
Yeah, so coming from Nanaimo, it is kind of like a smaller town, smaller city. I feel my experience in the industry has reigned through to my relationship strength. People do, trust what V Island Mortgages has a file that it's getting done to the best of its ability. So I think reputation is huge. So, you've got to build that reputation first and maintain a solid reputation, which is, getting deals done, or if you're not getting deals done, communicating to the best of your abilities on why, etc. But I feel doing the right thing for everybody is number one. Especially in a smaller place, John and Bob, they know what Billy did, right? It's it's something I believe in that. And maybe if it's a bigger city where that doesn't happen, still thinking that way, I think is key, because just doing the best you can for everyone, you can't really go wrong, and if someone questions it, it's, I did the best I could, I feel I've done the best I could. What more can you really ask for me? So I think the relationships are built on trust again.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what's kept us going. Do I have the same referral partners from day one? Absolutely not. There's been change, etc. I've had people come back around that we're working with again. So I've been around long enough to see that. But yeah, just doing the best you can for everyone that you work with.
It's a good reminder. Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do. And you can take peace in that, right? So is there one memorable client success story that you could share or that comes to mind?
One was earlier on in my career when it was just seeing that example from the buddy who introduced me to mortgage brokering was discovering what I can do. Like having, I remember a $3,600 a month payment reduction for a client. Every month I dropped their payments $3,600. So they were paying $5,600 and now they're paying $2,000 a month. The appreciation and just I could literally see the weight come off this client's shoulders as I was telling them the new numbers, and they wouldn't believe it until it was like at the lawyers said and done.
No doubt.
And I guarantee there's probably tears at that meeting.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, nothing. The pay is great. The image, the appreciation is cool, but just knowing how much I changed that family's life, I think I saved their butts, right? Like it was a huge payment savings that they were needing. So that one really hit home, and I think that was a spearhead to go strong forward with that type of clientele. And really the people that I work with, the client relationships I have are current clients, like people that have experienced what we can do and really trust us and working with us. So that was definitely a really awesome time to go through. Another time was an older gentleman actually who came to me and was spending literally every cent that he made every single month on visas, lines of credits, his little mortgage. And he was like 89 years old. Like he's paid Visa probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in his lifetime. And we went through it, and I was thinking, we can do like a private to clean all this up and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Just stop paying. I'm like, you're literally like starving. You're hungry right now because you're paying Visa $400 a month. You're paying MasterCard $500 a month. You're paying X, blah, blah, blah a month. I'm like, just stop. I've been through financial disaster, and I know what happens next. For this guy, it made total sense. So I'm not getting a deal out of it. Yeah. He's wondering, why is this guy telling me this?
Yeah.
But that was the best, worst advice I ever had, was just stop paying. Like you're paid out the ass to these people. Why are you starving right now? Like I can hear your stomach rumbling, and you're gonna go give your food money to Visa. Like, so I don't know. I share that one with clients because I feel that's the right advice to give. But it's obviously, as a financial person and credit advisor, it's not something I want to go bragging about. But I had to tell it how it was, right? Like
there's a reason crazy. Why there's consumer proposals and bankruptcy.
Yeah. It's a law. It's a law.
Yeah.
So it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I know all about it, and it sucks to go through it myself. I've been down that road myself, so I could see this guy, and I felt for him. And like I said, I could have done a deal. I could have done a private deal and made $5,000 off this guy. That's crazy. I wouldn't still be in business today if I did that. So
I think it's a very unique angle that, for obvious reasons, a lot of people don't have that knowledge base to even like have that thought process, right? So like, you being able to share your experience and then that advice with that client at that specific time, like who knows where he would have been right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
totally.
He would probably still be in a private mortgage that's getting paid out every couple of years, and visas and this and that. And I mean, you never know what that path really looks like, right? And how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's this type of conversation is why we have you on the show, because you just
no holds barred.
Yeah, and appreciate that, right? Because it's just like, this is how we would talk anyways, right? And it's like just the raw like emotion side of this business. Like this business is not all roses. Like no, far from it, right? So
far from it. Yeah. I think that's something I've learned the most, is that no matter how hard it is, no matter how easy it is, you got to do what's right for the clients and put it on a smiling face when, maybe things aren't so great. It's hard to do, but clients need that because they're feeling pinched too, right? Like if there's a lot of debt and stuff, I feel like if I've gone through what they've been through, I know how to get them out of it. It's a perfect place for me to be.
Totally. I like that. We're going to try to wrap up here, but there's a couple things I really want to make sure we hit. So you you're pretty entrenched when it comes to technology and just being on the next edge of like systems or processes. I find just in our conversations, in our team meetings, you're one to raise your hand more than most, and I appreciate that just because I have a passion for that type of efficiency in tech. Is there any, and it doesn't have to be tech, but is there any tools, tips, or tactics you think would help like a broker listening that maybe isn't, maybe newer or maybe doesn't have that side of, the business nailed? And again, it doesn't have to be tech, but anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah. So one thing that I've just recently finally have started doing, and I was recommended again, Dustin Woodhouse, pretty much from day one, was a tracker. We have a client tracker. It can be a funded tracker, a non-funded tracker. It could be 10 different trackers, but you've got to keep that data. Existing clients, that's where you're going to find opportunities to save them money, is to actually have a spreadsheet in front of you and data mine. That's what I learned recently from Jim Terlekis, is data mining your own business, people who trust you. You've promised to do the best job for them. What are you doing? Well, if you're not data mining, you're not looking out for their best interests or their best products. So that's been recently what I've transitioned to currently as we speak. Actually, I'm creating this massive spreadsheet, and it's something I should have done a long time ago. And I do recommend that people start out with that, so you can manage your whole portfolio with that sheet. And then of course you've got your CRMs, you've got all these other tools that are pretty common in the industry, but I think that spreadsheet is highly recommended, and I hopefully will see the benefits coming soon, because I'm new to it myself after this long.
That's cool. So like that's essentially, that's in addition to your CRM and your, your submission platform. That's just like some simple shot that you can go to. I like that.
Yeah, you run queries on there with what product they're in. It's a lot of data across the spreadsheet, so you can query, do they have insurance? Do they have a variable rate? Is it fixed? What's the rate? And you can run queries on where people can see some savings and protection. And then the CRMs are more about just staying top of mind. So birthday wishes, anniversary, appointment bookings, things like that. I feel automated is cool. Like you gotta be present. But I feel my specific emails are going to be coming from that spreadsheet. Those are 100% replies. People are in tune with those types of emails.
That's what I love about data and tech in today's world. If you have the data available, like you can start to communicate to a certain group of your clients about, if they're in an adjustable rate mortgage, like we can talk to that group of 50 people specific to their situation, which is going to help you drive business, right? You can just get really creative with it if you have everything.
That's right.
Accessible.
Yeah. And there's no CRM I guess they're getting there, but there's no CRM that can literally take that group out of your whole portfolio and you can then market to them specifically on a unique product or protection plan. So no, I think it's not a replacement for a CRM, but it's absolutely in addition. If you're starting out, it's so much easier than going back and refilling. It's
just simplifying.
It really is. It's so simple.
And like that's, man, we talk about this all the time. Like we were just talking to a group of brokers that had a challenging year with some technology and figuring out different platforms and trying every one of them and trying all the CRMs. And it's like trying to be efficient. Sometimes when you go down that road too far, it's almost like efficiency becomes inefficient. Yeah. And it's like, again, this is just hitting home because of a conversation, an hour conversation we had with a group of brokers that are trying very hard, but it's almost like they're trying too hard.
Yeah.
This spreadsheet, it's almost like, it's just like
pretty
right?
simple. Yeah. It seems like when Dustin introduced his to begin with, I was like, oh my
I remember
God.
that. I remember having the
how
same
long
feeling.
It was. So thank you, Dustin, by the way. I have a little simpler version of it, but it's key. And he was right. He was absolutely right that it's fundamental to your entire business. It's right in front of you. So
very cool.
That's huge.
All right, looking ahead, what are your goals for next year?
Okay. So over the last couple of years, obviously the challenging years, goals were revamped a little bit, but we are gearing towards more of a volume focused goal this year, getting back to to the goods, I think, and really focusing on the existing book. We've got tons of renewals coming up, as everyone knows. The 2021 was my best year, so seeing those types of renewals starting to come up shortly. I think it's a lot of opportunity out there with the right mindset, with having my personal space clear. I've been through a lot of loss with family and such over the last couple of years as well. So it's feeling to a point where I feel pretty clear and I feel pretty motivated to get some things done here. So we're going to gear back to getting some good volumes, good business done, focus on our lender relationships more so, secluding it to probably 3 to 4 specific lenders, and really just focusing on the business. Less distractions.
Sounds like you're in a really good headspace going into 2025, which is it's really
good.
Cool. We're excited to see what you can do next year.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
How do you see? Well, this is where we'll wrap. I got 2 more questions and we'll wrap up. So, how do you see the mortgage industry evolving, and how are you preparing for that?
Well, talk about timing with anti-money laundering introduced, et cetera, this year. Like, I feel for you guys the most, but for me specifically, what appended item right now is revamping our entire process, because we've got to include all sorts of new stuff with this whole AML piece. So we're actually waiting on you guys to provide the forms that you're going to be wanting and things like that. Tarina's been, endless resource for helping out with that side of the business and the spreadsheet I've been mentioning. So I really feel the industry is going to change a lot. I feel there's going to be some regulation, some old school regulation going on, just with people that may not be up to speed with rules and processes, and brokerage firms, I think, realizing perhaps what some uninformed brokers are doing out there. I feel like this is going to be a real pencil sharpening for our industry here. So I
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So, honestly, and we all take this stuff so seriously because we care so much about the end user, which, we try to give value to you, our agents, every day. That's all we think about. You're obviously trying to make sure you're covering your ass for your clients. And there is too many groups that just, I'll deal with it later. And it's like, this isn't something that you can deal with. So I appreciate that forecast and totally agree with it. Okay. To wrap up, going back to you starting as a mortgage broker, or even just thinking of somebody brand new today, what advice would you give that individual?
Really evaluate what you're deciding to do. If you are jumping in to the industry, have a bankroll, be ready to not have a paycheck. It's not easy. And like I said, I had 5 deals close my first month, and it was like nothing for quite some time after that. And it's scary. You can go from the super highs to the real super lows really quickly. And I think just being prepared with finances, being the know-how that it's not going to be easy, getting it to the grindstone, and then working, I guess if you're brand new, working with a great group like A Better Way. I've never seen so many new agents thrive so quickly. So having the resources and those types of things is key to especially a new broker coming in. And if you're looking at like a bank specialist, what the heck are you doing? Why are you wasting your time over there? I find anyone with the right skills have usually already made the jump over, or they're tied to a pension. That's the only reason you're sitting at the banks nowadays. And that's the best marketing for us, is go talk to the bank, because you're talking to me 20 years ago. My little tie. You need a cell phone at the same time. Yeah. So that's what you're getting at the bank level these days, is there's not a lot of knowledge, and no offense to them, but it's just, they can't, can't pay the right pay wage to keep the right people.
To retain,
So I think that's a huge piece. And my advices are, make sure you want to jump into it, know what you're doing. And if you're jumping from the other side, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
So
Great
advice.
points. Man, thank you so much for making
Thank
the way
you.
out here.
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Taking time. I know you value your time, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2025. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger issue many are unaware of in British Columbia. While school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during the weekends. Backpack Buddies steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy to prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again, thank you for listening and see you on the next one.